Hey everybody, how you doing? It's been a while. Not even sure when I made my last video, but since we're kind of rolling up on the end of the year, thought I would take a moment and reflect on some things that have happened. I'm not gonna lie. 2024 was a rough year. It's kind of weird because I originally thought, I'm trying to remember the timing. You know, all the kids aged out into 2023. And I was like, in my mind, I was thinking that 2024 was going to be a good year. And it wasn't necessarily a bad year. It was just a rough year. If you guys watched previous videos, way back when, have been following me for a while, you remember probably that I had that lawsuit issue that happened, which I was kind of perplexed by. I didn't really think it was going to happen, but nope, sure enough, got papers served, knocked on the front door, had to go to court. Luckily, I was able to defend that and get that thrown out. But that was incredibly stressful starting the new year. On top of all of that, at the end of 2023, I'd had a conversation which I thought was private with my kids about what was going on. And I think it was almost kind of I knew what was going to happen, but I kind of wanted to prove myself wrong, right? I wanted to ask the kids to actually back me up, support me, and which was a a ask too difficult. And then, in the course of that, I said, okay, fine, just don't, then fine. We didn't have this conversation. We won't talk about it. Don't talk about it to anybody because, in my mind, your mom is sharing information with the enemy, so to speak. In case you don't know, I was sued by my own mother, which was fun. Anyways, and as a result of that, what ended up happening when I got sued and I got the paperwork and I read through it, that conversation that I had with the kids found its way into their court documents, part of the lawsuit. Which, I mean, I can say that I wasn't necessarily surprised, was hurt by it. But, it was one of those things. So the whole thing of 2024, and that actually started into 2023, right? I mean, it was like right around November, October timeframe that the lawsuit started. And I was gifted with that little bit of information. And so it made the start of the year really rough. And with the channel, it also made it tough because it's like, okay, I got to close hold, more information, be more cautious about what I'm putting out there because I'm being sued and I don't want anything to be potentially put in there that complicates things, so to speak. So basically dealt with that. Got some good information, some help from some really good people. I mean, the channel helped in that regard because I had contacts with people that really helped me devise a strategy and find the way to where I can basically say that this was I think it was called like an illegal contract or something along those lines, or statutes of frauds or something like that. Effectively, I found in the law that what they were doing wasn't allowed. And when I finally went to court in early 2024, I think it was January, I was able to do that and it worked, right? The judge basically poked me in the eye a few times, but said, that my argument was rock solid, no way of fighting, no way, no remedy to get around it. Case was dismissed. Everything was over. I was out a few $100, maybe $1,000 on, fees and filing fees and all that crap because I had to do that. So I got that resolved, right? And you would think that would be, like, woohoo, I won, and things would calm down. And in a way it did. with a caveat, it did, and the issue with that, it was incredibly emotionally draining. So just after it was just very stressful. And it was just kind of like I felt stuck. I had made at the end of 2023, I was doing really well, building content for my other channel as well. And everything just kind of got, the wind kind of got deflated on the sails, and it really complicated, the beginning of 2024. Mesh all of that with work issues. I had an employee who is just a train wreck. He, was basically harassing people at work, making threats, threatening other people. And I spent effectively about 2 years working on a package, so to speak, to resolve that issue, only to be thrown under the bus by our human resources team, who effectively stopped talking to me. We were in the process of basically firing this guy. And then the answer was, well, you can't do that. You never could do that. We always told you could never do that. And they told my boss's boss this. And I got basically kind of poked in the eye, and everything started over. So, the people who were also dealing with this on a daily basis, basically everything had to reset. And that was incredibly stressful, right? That was a daily issue where it was just bad. I mean, this guy was just doing all kinds of weird stuff. And I effectively am like, all right, fine. You know what? I am going to try everything I possibly can to resolve the issue. And my early Christmas present was I finally was able to string enough stuff together that glorious person just resigned. They basically got things coming at multiple angles, and their only recourse really was, I think the writing was on the wall, that they needed to quit, and they did. They basically, and they didn't even tell me, they basically took leave, and then the day that they were supposed to come back, sent a letter that to my boss, not even to me, saying I resigned. So I didn't even find out. Like mid-November is whenever the resignation was official. And I found out like on 9 November. And at that point, I thought the guy had basically disappeared and was, absent without leave. And I was working that, which was just turning out to be, it was one of those things where it was going to be a multi-month process. I don't know if you guys realize this, but if you quit, especially depending on where you work, if it's a big place and they have rules they have to follow, it's not super easy to just say, oh, okay, well, you stopped coming to work, so you're done. No, what happens is you have to try to make contact with the person to tell them to come back. And then you have to give them, then you have to send a certified letter telling them, like a demand letter, to come back to work. And then you have to give that like a couple of weeks to, assume that they received it. And then you can work on a removal termination package saying, well, you haven't been to work in 3 or 4 weeks. So now you have to work on this legal package to terminate somebody, which takes about a month or two, and get legal and everyone to hack off on it. And then if the person still is not, communicating or responding or anything, then what happens is you have to go through that whole mailing process again. So you mail it, you have to wait a 2.5, 3 weeks to assume that they get it whenever they won't sign for the certified stuff. And then what would happen after that period of time, then the proposed action would commence, and there's like a 30-day window for them to respond. So you'd have to push out another 30 days or more for them to respond. And then you would be able to finally, do the action, which, so I was looking at going, oh my God, this is going to be like February, March before this is resolved. And then one day on the 9th, my boss comes back to work and checks his mail, physical mail, calls me midday and says the guy quit. So that was an issue that I've been working for 2 years. So that was pretty stressful. And it's just been kind of a bizarre year. And there were some other issues that happened where, you end up accidentally allowing people into your environment that maybe shouldn't be there. And it just, it made for a very complicated 2024. So here's the weird part, or here's the thing I struggle with is for the last 15 or so years, I always entered the year for the most part feeling like this year is going to be better. Something's going to happen. It's going to be better. And effectively every year, something negative happened. Not, like rolling it back. You got this work thing, the legal thing, the child support thing, and just, it's like, then they raised my rent and, all these things that occurred where every year I'd finish the year thinking, all right, you know what? Everything is looking great for 2020, 2020, whatever. And that's where I'm kind of at right now. It's like, okay, I still pay alimony. I still have to deal with that. I haven't messed with that this year. But, all the kids are adults. I have a decent relationship with them. Nobody's living with me, but, I still have a good relationship with the kids. The work thing is basically resolved. Hired some new people that are going to be starting in a few weeks, beginning of the year. And I'm like, I'm at that point where it's kind of weird because I'm like, well, 2025 should be a good year. There's nothing pending. There's nothing, I could think of a few things that maybe could go wrong, but I'm not that worried about it. The legal stuff is pretty much over. I still have, like I said, I still have the alimony thing, so I may or may not deal with that this year. I'm not sure. So I'm in this torn spot where I'm like, this next year should be a good year. There's no reason why it shouldn't be a good year. I should be able to start this year strong. I don't have any information that has come up yet that looks like it's going to be a problem or anything like the previous years. So, but what I guess what I'm getting at is that I'm kind of in this mode where I'm like, I should feel good about 2025, but should I feel good about 2025? Should I? It's kind of a weird situation. I think a lot of us who've been through the situations we've been through, you constantly are getting these external things that are just whacking you upside the head. So you get, I don't want to say paranoid, because I can look back in the past, and there were times where I was absolutely paranoid, right? I was freaked out and worried about what was going to happen next, and catastrophizing and thinking about things in a negative way, or just kind of anticipating the worst. And typically the worst never really happened. But it's been kind of a weird situation. And I think, like I said, a lot of us go through that where you feel like you're constantly getting kicked, and you get back up and then you get kicked again. And it's just this ongoing thing. But I'm really feeling like this year, the only thing that could be pending, well, I don't even want to say it, but, maybe health, well, okay, I just said it, maybe health issues, maybe that's going to be a problem. And, that wouldn't be fun, but I don't know. So anyways, I guess my point on this is that's kind of the reason. Well, there's one other thing. One other thing is during work this last year, was brought to my attention that my understanding of my relationship with you all through the channel and through Discord and through other things, and this is the reason why I haven't been really active on much of anything, is because there's some complexities with my day job that I have to report certain interactions with certain people, which makes it really complicated. So, that was another thing where I'm like, all right, cool. I got this other stuff resolved and everything's done and the legal stuff is over. And when it was finally filed, I'm like, all right, I'm going to jump back into the channel. I'm going to dive into some stuff. I think maybe my last video or my last live stream, I was kind of talking about that. And I went into a little bit more detail on what was going on. I may have deleted that one, to be honest, and right around that time, it was like, oh, hey, by the way, the rules changed, and online interactions with people can be an issue at work, right? So, and this whole thing is never made enough to cover, the day job type of thing. So it's one of those things where I couldn't really risk that. So that added a whole nother set of complexity. I think in some ways, the camping channel thing that I have, that one's a little different because I don't, it's more of a disconnect thing. I post a piece of content. Yeah, maybe there's some comments in the thing, but I don't really know who anyone is. I can't really, it's all anonymized, anonymity, and it's harder to know who anyone really is, right? So it just made everything in 2024 very complicated. It's kind of frustrating because I have this whole setup that still, obviously, the set looks, other than there's some extra stuff back there, the set looks exactly the way it always has. Nothing's changed. So, this has all been in hot standby, camera bolted to the desk and lights and the audio gear and microphones and switchers and all that kind of stuff has just been sitting here. And I haven't really been in a position to really use it. So I'm hoping that I can change that. And I got to kind of figure out what my way forward is on that. I've struggled trying to come up with that anyways, right? I do still see the comments and stuff of, I still get new subscribers on the channel and comments from off of old videos where people are saying, helping them and stuff like that. Even on the coaching, I tried to talk to the company I do the scheduling with, and I'm like, hey, can you limit to regions? And they can't, so I was kind of like, well, if I could turn that back on and have it to where it would solve some of my problem, but it doesn't. I can't. Maybe someone else, maybe there's a different service that could, but I don't know how to do it. It just complicates it. So that's where things have kind of been. And I obviously want to do something. I just for me personally, one of the things that I did take up in the last year or so is radio stuff, ham radio, amateur radio. I have I started out the year or maybe the year before with like a technician license, and I upgraded to a general license, which gives me more access to high frequency HF type stuff. So I've been doing a lot of that. So I've been playing this thing called POTA, Parks on the Air. Kind of incorporating that with camping. There are a couple of videos on my other channel where I was doing that, and I'm kind of wanting to do that again, like I was mentioning before. But part of in 2024, it really kind of took the wind out of my sails, so to speak, with a lot of the stuff that was going on. So it was just really hard to be in that creative mode. But I have been doing that stuff, and it's been, a load of fun. It's I don't know. Sometimes I think it's silly, but it's also kind of fun. you throw up an antenna, you run a radio on battery, and you go to a park or a forest or, whatever that has an identifier, and you basically, call CQ and stuff. And it's fun, right? I mean, you get milestones and play with your gear, and you start to recognize call signs and people and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. So I'm trying to think about, what I'm going to do going forward. Anyways, what I was saying is that I still do get comments and emails and stuff about how the channel has helped. I've even had some emails from people who are old viewers who've moved past, like I always used to talk about. I mean, my goal had always been for people to graduate from this, take their life back, get out of the chaos, and leave it behind, right? And when that happens, and there's no real reason to keep watching content, like you can't. I mean, once you've basically healed from a toxic relationship, narcissistic abuse, and that whole paradigm, unless you roll back into another example and you need like some refresher type stuff, you can't continue to watch this stuff. It's just, it doesn't, once you validate that your experience is real, you learn the techniques. At least, I mean, there's a bunch of different techniques. I mean, obviously in my channel, there's things that I specifically talk about that I think work and have been helpful for people. And once you, kind of incorporate that into your life, then you don't need to continually do it. Now, there are some people who keep coming back because they run into problems. They either have a setback with their relationship with their ex, or they end up in duplicate type scenarios where they're basically doing the same type of thing, interacting with the same person in it, and it creates a problem. Anyways, my point is that, the channel, I've kind of struggled with, well, the channel's helpful, and there's all this content in the history that's still there. It's effectively evergreen. I mean, I don't get a lot of views on it, but I mean, it is generating traffic, and people are being helped by it. So, I mean, I don't want to take it down. And it's like, what's the step forward? I mean, what's the next iteration of what I could do to provide value for you? And I mean, I guess in some way provide value for me, not risk my, my livelihood or anything. I mean, that's obviously a problem. But, so what's the way forward? And I've been struggling with that. I mean, all of 2024, I've been struggling with that. I mean, I thought what was so weird is in 2023, when I thought, okay, child support's almost over. All the kids are going to age out. I don't have to deal with this crap anymore. I probably won't have anybody in the house, so I don't have to not make video. I mean, I was in my mind, I'm like, well, I can do a daily thing again. I could do live streams every evening. I could do all these different things. And then all that crap happened, which basically was like, no, you can't, you need to, don't do it. It's risky. You don't, it could be a problem in the litigation and everything. Right. So I just kind of stopped. And now I'm like, well, what do I do? Right. I mean, what is the next move? I mean, I put so much effort into this channel. I mean, I was looking today, I think I'm right around 49,000 subscribers. It just bumped up. I mean, my subscriber growth has like gone to a trickle. And, but I mean, I put a lot of effort into this, and it's like, what would be a good way forward? Do I change the dynamics of the channel? Do I start covering stories? Do I do something different? Do I just leave it, So on that, I mean, if you have some ideas or thoughts or what you think would be a good move or what you think would be helpful or nothing. I mean, maybe there's, maybe I did what I needed to do and this body of work just stands on its own, I have to try to figure out what I want to do next. I mean, where I'm going to put my energy and my effort. So, is it this? Is it camping? Is it I mean, obviously I have my day job, so I'm putting effort into that, but it's like, what's the next move? What's the next thing? So yeah, just kind of curious. I mean, if you've watched this long, I mean, it's 25 minutes into this video. If you have some thoughts, I would love to hear it. I mean, if you made it this far, I appreciate it, because I mean, I haven't really made much and haven't really been producing anything. I mean, is there questions I should revisit, make videos on, or whatever? So I have a lot of, I guess, opportunity, and then it's just a matter of trying to figure out what's the best direction, what's the best way forward. So anyways, so yeah, I mean, let me know what you think. If you made it this far, say made it in the comments below so I know that you made it all the way towards the end. And if you have some thoughts, let me know. And I guess the final thought that I just want to say is, it wrapped around catastrophic thinking. It can be so easy to fall into the trap of just catastrophizing on everything that will go wrong. And I think one benefit of getting older, I'm definitely getting older, is I can look back on a lifetime of doing that. I've done that since I was a kid in high school. So I've always gone down this dark path. There was a period of time where I thought, well, that's what gives me my edge, so I can't stop doing that, because that's why I'm probably successful, is because I'm constantly strategizing and thinking about what can go wrong and planning on it and all those things. And it's all bull. It's all BS. It does not do a damn thing for you. It makes your days longer and harder, and it doesn't move the needle. And the reality is most of the time, the catastrophic thought doesn't even happen. So you spend all this time dealing with the emotion as if it happened, and then it doesn't happen. So effectively, you've wasted time dealing with that, feeling that, expressing that, worrying about that for no reason. And then even if something bad does happen, if you can push through it, most of the time, it seems like it actually pushes you into a better position. I know in the context of this channel, and what the reason is, a lot of people are here with toxic exes or toxic, in-laws, losing your kids, losing your adult kids because they marry some nut job. It's hard to, when you're feeling that pain, to think about that. But that's the real takeaway on all of this stuff. Even when I was talking about, is all the stuff that I was catastrophizing about most of my life. None of it ever happened. Even in 2024, all the stuff that I was worried about happening, I thought I was going to go bankrupt. I really thought that it was going to, the whole thing that was happening, which caught me out of left field, wasn't anticipating it, was going to financially ruin me, after I was just feeling like I'm finally out of this. These fucking people don't have any ability to screw with me anymore. Well, we're wrong with that. But I made it through that too. And none of it, the worst case scenarios didn't happen. So hang in there. Hang in there. Don't let the catastrophic thinking drag you down. Don't give these frickin' people more power than they deserve over your emotion and your state, which I know is a hell of a lot easier said than done. I get that. But you got to find your peace. And you got to eliminate the chaos in your life. I have some people I'm still working with that are still struggling with that. And it's just really sad that they just can't let go, and they get pulled back in so damn fast. On that, anyways, this video has gone way too long. Give me your ideas down below. Would love to hear what you think. If you have some suggestions, let me know. And on that, hopefully we will chat on a future video. All right, thanks.